Hey guys, Miss P here, and we're going to do some drawing and some labeling on some heart structure and some blood flow. So I'm starting with this diagram that was in your notes, and I had done the heart structure labeling in a short, about 2.5 minute video so that you could do each of these diagrams. And so this is showing you a section of the heart where you can see both anterior and posterior sides. So you're looking at a posterior view. So that would be a coronal section that has been cut through the heart so that you can see both front and back. And you can see the various chambers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw this by hand and label the structures in just a two-dimensional kind of quick and easy way. And then we're going to talk a little bit about blood flow. So I'm just going to slide over here in my notes. And I like to do this, start out and draw the outline of this heart in dark color. So we're going to start out and draw black. And I'm not an artist by any means, but I do know art is a brain-based attitude. And when you draw it, you label it, you color it, you own it. So that's why I encourage you to draw this and label it yourself. So here we go. So I'm going to draw my heart right here. As I said, I'm not an artist. I'm not perfect. And so I'm going to draw my 4 chambers. And I'm going to do this right here because I need to leave space here for some structures. And then I'm going to just kind of draw this right here. All right, now, so let's go ahead and label our chambers. Our upper chambers are called our atria, and they are our receiving chambers. So I have the right atrium, which can be abbreviated RA. And then I have the left atrium. And then I have the lower chambers, and those are the discharging chambers, or the pumping chambers. And so I have my right ventricle, and I have my left ventricle. Now, dividing between the atriums and the ventricles is the septum. And I'm going to kind of shade the septum a little bit darker on this side, and I'll talk about why in just a second. But we're going to go ahead and just label this the septum. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to kind of shade this side a little bit darker right here, just so that you can see it's a little bit thicker. And we'll talk about why here shortly later on. So we're just going to kind of do that there. All right, so we're going to add structures first on the inside of the heart. And so blood has to flow from the top to the bottom on both sides, and it flows through valves, and valves are there to kind of open and close to prevent backflow. So, and they're kind of like flaps. So I'm going to do these in a different color, and I'm going to kind of just draw flaps like this and like this. But this one on the right side of the heart has 3 flaps, so I'm just going to kind of do it like that. And that is my tricuspid valve. Now, on the left side of the heart, I've kind of got these 2 flaps right here, and that is referred to as the bicuspid valve. All right. So, and those are our atrioventricular valves because they connect the atrium to the ventricles. So as the classification, they are atrioventricular, and they connect the right atrium to the right ventricle or the left atrium to the left ventricle. So the next thing that we have to do is we need to add some of what we refer to as our greater vessels. So I'm going to change colors here, and I have to draw a valve first. And this valve is semilunar, so it's half moon shaped. So I'm going to draw that valve right about here, and notice that it's like 2 half moons. And then I'm going to extend that out because that goes to the lungs. So that is a semilunar valve, but it's known as the pulmonary semilunar valve. So that goes into the pulmonary trunk. So I'm just going to draw this pulmonary trunk out here just a little bit. Okay. And so I'm going to write here, just across here, pulmonary semilunar valve. It's kind of hard to see, but it's the pulmonary semilunar valve. And so that goes up to the pulmonary trunk. Now, and that's leaving the right ventricle headed towards the lungs. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to add the valve that's leaving blood flow that's leaving the left side of the heart. So I'm going to do that here in this pink. And again, I'm going to draw that kind of half moon shaped valve there. And I'm going to extend this here, but it goes behind the pulmonary semilunar valve to right there. So I'm just going to kind of dot, dot, dot that. And then it goes up and it goes over, but at one point then my pulmonary trunk is going to go in front of it. So I'm just going to kind of just go up and over this and kind of dot, dot, dot this, and you'll kind of see that in a second. And that is our aortic semilunar valve, leaving the left ventricle, going to the aorta. So this is, let's see if I can kind of, oh, I didn't really want to do it all that way, but we'll go kind of, let's just see if we can't make that a little, see if I can make that a little bit neater here. Okay, a little bit thicker there. Okay, so that's my aorta. And at the top of the arch, it has 3 other arteries that go off of that. So I'm back to my pulmonary trunk. And at the moment, the pulmonary trunk here is going to branch off. And it's going to go in front of the aorta. So you can see right there that's showing that the aorta is going behind it. And so this right here, guys, is my pulmonary trunk. It's a main line before it branches. And then it just kind of continues on over here till it goes to a lung. And so I'm going to add a lung. It's not going to be anything fancy or anything like that. So we're just going to kind of go this way. And this is going to be my left lung. So that makes this the left pulmonary artery, because arteries leave the heart. You can abbreviate that LPA. All right, so it branches because we've got a left lung. We also have a right lung. So we're going to just kind of go right here, and it's going to leave here and go here, and it's going to go behind the aorta on this side. So on the left side, it goes in front of the aorta, but going to the right lung, it goes behind the aorta. So we're just going to kind of make it our little dot here, and then we'll just extend that on out this way until I make a right lung. Okay, and that's my right lung. It's not really as even, but there's my right lung. So that makes this the right pulmonary artery. All right, so I've got, bring this back a little bit. So now I have got my right and left pulmonary arteries going to my lungs. I can go back here and continue on with the aorta that then is going back behind the heart, and it eventually comes out continuing to go down on the left side of the heart. All right, so now I've got to add pulmonary arteries going to the lungs, coming from the lungs back to the left atrium. I need to have my pulmonary veins. And so there are, let's see, I'm going to do, so I'm just going to erase just a little bit here and a little bit here. Is it going to let me erase a little bit here? Okay, there we go. And so here I've got my pulmonary veins, and they're going to go behind the heart. And over here, I'm going to go just erase a little bit here and a little bit here. And I'm going to draw these pulmonary veins coming right here to the left atrium. Now, where they enter the left atrium, I'll make a little bit three-dimensional right there where they enter. And so these would enter like right here and right here. So these are my right pulmonary veins. And I have two on the right, and then I have my left pulmonary veins. And that's bringing blood back to the left side of the heart. Now, the last greater vessels that we need to add is that we need to add the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, the vessels that bring blood to the right side of the heart. And so I'm going to go back and let's see, maybe do this darker blue right here. And so that comes in like right here. And at this point, this would be coming behind. So I'm going to use my little stroke eraser here and just kind of erase this a little bit and erase this a little bit. I want to say I'm going to. Yeah, there we go. And so go back in here and make that solid, pretty much solid. And then this would be just kind of showing that it's going behind it. All right, and so that enters the right atrium, say right here. And then coming from below or inferior, you have another vessel, the inferior vena cava, and it's going to kind of enter right about here. So this is my superior vena cava. And this would be my inferior vena cava. All right, and so in looking at this, I have my four chambers, my right and my left atrium, my right and my left ventricle. I have the valves, the atrioventricular valves that connect them, tricuspid on the right, bicuspid on the left. I have my semilunar valves, pulmonary semilunar going up to the pulmonary trunk, which branches into the left pulmonary artery going to the left lung, then to the right pulmonary artery going to the right lung. The aortic semilunar valve branches up into the aorta, which goes up and arches over to the left, going behind the pulmonary artery and then behind the left side of the heart. Coming back from the lungs, I have my two left pulmonary veins and my two right pulmonary veins. And then blood flow into the right atrium is from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. So that's just kind of a 2D way to draw your heart. So part of your assignment was to draw a 2D and a 3D heart, and you had a little video clip for doing the 3-dimensional heart. And so here's just a little bit on how you do the 2-dimensional heart. And so if you slide back over here, you can see I have everything labeled here that I had labeled over there. A couple things I wanted you to notice. Notice that I made the wall of the left ventricle a little bit thicker. If you look over here, and let's see, let's do a different highlighter. Maybe we can do that in orange. Can we do that in orange? Yeah, we can do that in orange. This area right here, you can see around the left ventricle, the septum, the wall here, the wall around there, and the septum is thicker. And that's thicker because the blood from the left ventricle is pumped out through the aorta and it goes to the rest of the body. Now, on the right ventricle, it is thinner because it's going out the pulmonary trunk, which I did not label here, the pulmonary trunk, over to the right and the left lungs. Okay, so it doesn't have to go as far, so the walls don't have to be as thick there. If you notice right here, the tricuspid has the 3 heartstrings and the bicuspid has the 2 heartstrings. And that's why they're labeled tricuspid and bicuspid. They have the chordinae tendineae there. All right, so let's talk a little bit then about blood flow. So we've got our drawing here. So let's talk a little bit about blood flow. So I'm going to kind of go down here and we're going to talk about blood flow through the heart. All right, so we're going to start what I call the starting point of blood going into the heart. All right, so I have got my, and I'm going to use abbreviations, superior vena cava and my inferior vena cava. And that's blood coming from body tissues back to the heart. So it's going into the right atrium. Through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, through the pulmonary, pulmonary semilunar valve, PSV, to the pulmonary trunk, which branches into the right and left pulmonary arteries. And then it goes into the right, right and left lung. All right, guys, here in the right and left lung, you have what is known as gas exchange. All right, and that's where oxygen is dropped off and carbon dioxide is picked up. So I'm going to draw me an arrow here, and purple is going to indicate gas exchange because I'm dropping off oxygen poor blood, that's indicated by blue, and I'm picking up oxygen rich blood, which is denoted by red, and that's in the capillary beds. So I'm going to just keep capillary beds, guys, in purple. Okay, that happens in the capillary beds. Or I guess I should actually, instead of saying capillary beds, I think what I'll do is just write gas exchange. Would probably be better to write gas exchange as to what happens here. Okay, so this is gas exchange. And so gas exchange is O2 drop off. Excuse me. Let's try this again, guys. Gas exchange. CO2 drop off and O2 pickup. All right, that's gas exchange. All right, so coming out of gas exchange, I have blood going to the right and left pulmonary vein to the left atrium through the bicuspid valve to the left ventricle through the aortic semilunar valve to the aorta to the body, and on the body, guess what happens again? Gas exchange. All right, again, O2 dropped, in this case, O2 drops off. O2 drop off. CO2 pickup. And at this point, then I have blood that goes all the way back here through all the veins of the body, going all the way back up. Just keep on going. Whoops. All the way back up to the top. In through the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. And I've made my loop right back where I started from. Blood has come all the way back to where I started from. All right, so let's just go over this again. All right. The superior and inferior vena cava dump oxygen-poor deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. It goes through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, through the pulmonary semilunar valve, out the pulmonary trunk, branching into the right and left pulmonary arteries, going to the right and left lung. Gas exchange happens, guys. CO2 drop-off and oxygen pickup. So now that blood coming back through the right and left pulmonary veins is oxygen-rich, goes to the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, through the left ventricle, through the aortic semilunar valve, to the aorta, to the body. Gas exchange happens there, O2 drop-off, CO2 pickup, and then we've got oxygen-poor blood that travels all the way back up to the heart, again entering through the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. All right, so over here, guys, you can see when you look at this, and these are capillary beds right here. So I'm just going to write capillary beds right here, because gas exchange happens in the capillaries. Those are the very tiniest vessels that are only a single cell thick, made of simple squamous epithelium. And so you've got capillary beds down here. And so when you have gas exchange, you are dropping off oxygen-rich blood for oxygen-poor blood, or vice versa. So if it's in red, this is oxygenated blood. If it's in blue, it's deoxygenated blood, or oxygen poor. All right? So in looking at this diagram, guys, so I've got my lungs. This would be my right lung. Remember, we're in anatomical position. And notice it's bigger and has 3 lobes. Then I have my left lung. It's slightly smaller because of the orientation of the heart. All right, so this is my oxygen factory up here, guys. This is my O2 factory. All right, so blood is picked up and it goes into the left side of the heart. So this is my transportation system. This is my hub. We live in Memphis, so this is my FedEx. All right, so blood comes in the left side of the heart into the left atrium, going down to the left ventricle through the bicuspid valve, out through the ASV, aortic semilunar valve, out the aorta, going to body tissues. Here I get down to body tissues. In the capillary beds, I have gas exchange. O2 is dropped off. CO2 is picked up. The blood comes back, coming in through the IVC here, inferior vena cava, the SVC here, into the right atrium, going through the tricuspid to the right ventricle, out the pulmonary semilunar valve, through the pulmonary trunk, to the right and left pulmonary arteries. And so this up here, guys, is pulmonary circulation. Blood flow from the heart to the lungs and back. Down here, I have blood flow leaving the heart, going to the body, and then coming back to the heart. And this is systemic circulation. All right? So, taking a look at what we've done tonight, we have drawn our heart and labeled all of our structures. We have gone through blood flow, and I realize that's kind of a lot of blood flow right there going through that. And then we've done through our pulmonary and systemic circulation. All right, we'll continue to review this. Test is either on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week with a review in Zoom on Monday. All right, guys, Miss P out. See you in class.